I want to shout out Juju Gotti, who does such a great job with our social media. Now, we've all felt a little raw sometimes. We say these things into the microphone. We have to be responsible for what we say. Sometimes these things are out of context.
Sometimes you say things off here in the air.
Sometimes you're going to have to explain to your daughter 15 years down the line, why did you say into a microphone, what could possibly be the context, why you said into a microphone you love Matthew Tkachuk more than me. And then I have to say, it's largely performative. It's an amplification largely performative. But in that moment, I meant every word.
You just have to say that.
It
doesn't have to be true.
Like,
you just have to say it.
The burden of performing for this audience and the host that sits in this seat usually is it's heavy. It's like the badge of Brazil.
There you go.
But I saw the Greg Berhalter clip, and I've been working on myself. Like, don't stay away from words like loser and dumb. Like, stop assassinating the man's character.
No.
But in this instance, I will not walk that back whatsoever. I will change my tone. No. But I don't think Greg Berhalter is any good at this. And I actually don't like his attitude.
Yes.
I think he thinks he's smarter than everybody. I think it shows you a lot that he didn't just recognize what was going on and remove his name from consideration. Yes. I think there's a considerable ego there, and there is no real success to back it up.
Land the plane.
So I want to see you gone, like away from this program forever. Take your brother with you. I want the U.S. Soccer Federation to realize what's in front of them, realize that they've wasted really valuable time. You could get Mourinho in there. You could get Klopp in there. You can get Pep Guardiola in there. And I don't think we have enough time to fix this mess because of your decision several months ago. So please, listen to me. Greg, you do the right thing. Because I have zero faith in everybody else doing the right thing. Walk away. Do what you should have done 18 months ago when that played out in public. Go away. And then the U.S. Soccer Federation, if and when he does, or you decide by some miracle he's not good enough, do what you did for the women's national team. You went to the very top of the chain, and you got Emma Hayes, someone that's been there, done that, won at the highest level, commands respect. Do that, because these opportunities, they don't come around often. Sometimes they don't come around at all. You're hosting a men's World Cup, the biggest World Cup ever. Do something that meets the moment.
I think you cleaned that up.
I mean, you just flew in from San Francisco.
I did.
Did you raw dog it?
I did not raw. Well, no, I didn't raw dog it because I went to sleep. But raw dogging, I am fascinated by this new cultural phenomenon. You guys familiar with raw dogging?
Oh yeah.
Lewis invented it.
Man. Tony's going to be a dad, so he at least has seen of it.
Oh.
No. The reason I know exactly what you're talking about.
Not wearing underwear?
No, that's Commando.
I'm wearing underwear for like the first time in several weeks right now. These joggers don't have the inner lining.
Nice.
In South Florida, dude, I just realized like 6 years ago, underwear and I, done. No more underwear.
There's got to be a protective barrier, man, between
me and you.
There's a lining in a lot of the pants.
No, that's not enough.
Why?
Too thin of a lining.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. No, you want a thin lining.
No.
I'm
I
telling
need a little bit thicker of a
Okay,
lining.
look, guys, we're not going to agree on this. I like my balls hanging free and clear. The only thing that's in its way is the very thin lining. It is really muggy down here.
That's the issue.
That's the issue right there.
We need a couple layers between us.
But guys,
be snug. But anyways, back to raw dogging.
That's not raw dogging. Raw dogging. Chris, do you really not know what raw dogging is?
I do.
Okay. Jeremy, you know what raw dogging is?
Yes, but Billy doesn't. So
I don't
would you
know what
mind
we're talking
explaining to
about.
him?
So raw dogging is you get on a plane, you get on a flight, and you don't listen to music. You don't listen to a podcast.
Oh, maybe
you
I
don't
didn't
watch
know
a
what it
movie.
was.
You don't.
I know both.
You don't watch TV. You just.
You don't read.
You don't read.
And you're not wearing a condom
You
on
don't
the
take
airplane.
that too. Yes.
I usually do.
Very important, by the way.
Yeah, but I recently stopped.
You just sit and you watch the flight plan on the map, or
If
just,
you have one.
If you have one.
Some planes don't even have
They
that.
stopped doing that. Like, I stopped being able to see where in the world I was. I was just hoping we're on the right flight path.
So here's an image.
That's raw dogging right there.
he's not in the air though. It's easy to raw dog when you're at the gate.
Anyone can raw dog on the ground.
Yeah. Also, I don't believe anyone is actually raw dogging because they're taking their phone out to record themselves raw dogging these really minuscule moments. You're at least getting your phone in to post it on social media. Like, that's not a raw dog. A raw dog, there's no visual evidence.
Yeah. Well, there might be if someone else records you, but not of your own.
You have to
Okay.
be in a middle seat for it to be a real raw dog.
Yeah. You could do
Just
like the
middle
Chipotle
seat.
thing.
You can raw dog from
Have
the
you
side.
have you ever like been turned off by all the Chipotle videos, which is not the actual person recording, it's someone recording the person recording? Like everyone, like how do we set this shoot up? Like what's our intention?
What Chipotle videos are you talking about?
The Chipotle videos where someone
commercials?
hosts no, like where you basically put your phone out and you force them to just pack your bowl with more meat. You haven't
Wait.
seen, you missed that whole thing?
No,
That was like
yeah.
a thing like
Right.
talk to a girl, this is your future.
They're
3
packing-
weeks ago we were talking about the Chipotle packing the bowls thing.
Yep.
So they're making them pack more meat.
It's a pressure. It's a social pressure of having a phone and
It's
being like,
yeah,
I'm recording you.
skip me
Make
now.
yeah.
I
Don't
wish,
be
I
light
wi-
on that.
I wish I worked at Chipotle and someone tried to do that. I'm like, and so
Tell my boss.
You
Yeah,
will
what you
not
gonna
be at
do?
Chipotle the next day because the CEO made a video of how to get this done. Yeah. He said, give them a look and be like,
really?
We actually have that video. Let's
Yeah.
play it.
First, I can tell you the portions have not gotten smaller. One of the things I think it's great about Chipotle is if you come into the restaurant and you want a little more rice or you want a little more pico, all you got to do is kind of like, and usually our guys and women, give them a little more scoop.
Guy looked a lot like Buzz Lightyear.
Not protein, by the way. This
I-
is only
Or
for the
guac.
side items.
Or guac, by the way.
I love how he said our guys and women.
Kick save you.
They didn't show his face there, but he probably looked around like, I got
Showed
you.
enough of his face. This is a real square jawline on that.
Can
cat.
we just throw him up? We don't have to play the video, but can we just get a look at his face again? Because he reminds me of Ken Marino. Do you guys know Ken
Yeah,
Marino?
he does look like Ken Marino.
He was who is the host on the show
Party
Sports-
Down?
No, he was one of the guys in Party Down, but I always remember him from Eastbound and Down when the late stages Kenny Powers is on this sports show. And the main host of the show is Ken Marino.
Oh yeah, he was really good in that.
Dude, so here's a funny thing about that show. When I was watching Eastbound and Down, I was still working for the Suns. And so I remember watching that clip and where Kenny goes, Kenny's cutting in. And I said, yo, it would be so cool if I could do that on a TV show. Then I swear to God, I remember saying, when am I ever going to be on a TV show? On everything. And then I completely forgot about it until I rewatched it like a couple of weeks ago.
Ken Marino's also like the sound engineer on the Rock and Roller Coaster in Hollywood Studios. Huh. When Aerosmith, yeah, look for Ken Marino there.
He's also the stepdad in Role Models.
He's
Yes,
great
he
in
is.
that,
Oh,
too.
my God.
He's great in that. Billy, did you know that Ken Marino was in that Aerosmith ride?
Yeah, I think they're revamping that.
Yeah, they are. It was closed when I went.
I don't like that.
They have to.
Why?
Yeah, they have to.
Why?
Yeah,
It's gotten-
after the Michael J. Fox video, it has to be Coldplay.
Get him the stretch. Make that a super stretch. Classic
Wait a second.
line.
Raw dog it.
I love that idea.
Yeah. Oh.
Who said that?
Remember when they used to have like, I don't know if they still did at the end or if they still are going to, but they would like, there was an employee who was paid to like pretend to be tuning the instruments. So like they would have like the video where you see Aerosmith and like the person and Ken Marino's there, and then they'd have like a person who works for Disney who would be like, oh hey Jim, give me my guitar, and he's like, and then he'd pick up a guitar and be like, I got it, and
That
then
guy-
he'd just put it back for the next thing.
It breaks
Pandemic
my-
killed that guy.
It really breaks my heart.
Actually,
It breaks my heart to see like these once great amusement rides and now you see people go through the motions. Like the first time I rode Transformers, it was like get in evac right now, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. And now it's just like whatever, measure yourself,
How many?
get in there. How
4?
many in your group? Cool. All right, welcome to Transformers. Like I like the added like
It's
theatrics.
because Gen Z, man, they're too cool for school. That's who's getting these jobs now.
Yeah.
Bunch of kids.
But are
They're
you
taking our jobs.
So you fell asleep on your flight over from SFO.
couldn't
You
have.
haven't actually successfully raw dogged a
I
flight.
can't because I'm a
That's not
narcoleptic.
raw dogging if you fall asleep.
The,
Yeah,
rea-
it's
the
not.
reason I brought this up about Lewis raw dogging being like the first person I've ever seen do it is
Yeah.
because
He has
when
3
we
kids.
went,
Several
Because he
kids.
has like 4 kids.
not only does
Multiple
he have
children.
18
Like
kids
100
like
kids.
like Phillip Rivers, but when we went to Vegas
So many
for the
kids.
Super Bowl, I was on the aisle side and he was in the middle seat. And then all he was doing was sitting there. He didn't have headphones. He didn't take out his phone.
No gummies?
He didn't do anything.
He was
no
so
booze.
I don't
There's
know.
no way he wasn't baked.
He was just sitting there. Just
Did you hit him with the Elaine and Putty? Like, you need something?
I was like, yo, do you want to? I'm watching something. Do you want me to like share the
Oh, the
headphones
share
with you?
thing? I'm not doing that.
Gross.
I mean, dude, at some point, like
know
you
your
got to help your
boys.
boy out. He was
I know
just
your
sitting there
boys.
doing nothing.
He's like, no, I'm good.
5.5 hours just sitting there. Just Didn't drink water.
That's
Didn't get like one of the snacks,
he
like
was
the
fighting
Biscoff
today
cookies.
in UFC.
Yeah, it was
He
literally
did
just-
no sustenance.
Wait, like they asked him and he said no, he didn't want
Yeah,
it.
he
Why?
said
Is
No,
he
thank
crazy?
you.
He's
I don't know,
raw dogging.
didn't
I think he did invent raw dogging.
I'm
mean,
telling you, he was the first person I've ever seen decline everything. Every.
Did he think they charge you?
Telling you he was so
No,
baked.
he knew.
That's what I wanted the Panthers' flight from Edmonton to be. Like, you all feel this right now. I heard a great interview with Calaposo on Spin Chicklets, and apparently they were just playing poker, as they usually do. Nice and light. No, you raw dog that flight from Edmonton.
That's
you
how I
feel
want the
what I'm
Atlanta
feeling.
Dream to do sometimes. I'd be like, no, we were down 100 points. I don't want to swag surf. Get your arm off me.
I forgot headphones this past weekend. I was flying. I forgot headphones for myself. Like my daughter got them, which is like, come on, I'm daddy. I should get them. But
Yeah.
she got the headphones. I
Me
forgot
maximum.
them. Yeah. So I like.
But the ultimate sacrifice is like, my life is going to be a lot more difficult if you don't get these.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I watched the show on mute on my phone.
Nice.
I was like, I think
Subtitles?
I can follow. No subtitles.
Which one?
I was like, I'll
What?
figure this out.
Who was it that
Yeah.
was it Lucy that watched A Quiet Place? And it was like the perfect
yeah, it was
movie?
her.
Yeah, she
Mhm.
watched A
Watching
Quiet
it
Place
over
without
the shoulder
yeah.
of someone else on
But
a
it
plane.
was like a show. It was like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something. I'm like, I'll piece together.
You know
what's
what their
going on here.
voices
Yeah,
sound
I
like.
know what's going on here. I'll write my own story. This is fine.
Ken Marino also on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
Do a Terry Crews voice for us.
What?
Do a Terry Crews
Don't
voice.
do it.
Don't
No.
do the voice.
I'm
It's
not
all
gonna do
good.
it. Why would I do that?
Just speak in the third person.
Yeah, or just sing Vanessa Carlton.
Who do you think that song was better for, her or him?
Oh,
Him.
1,000%. First of all, as I told the story on the Dan Le Batard Show
What is
a
she
few
doing
months
now?
ago.
She's not hosting America's Got Talent. I'll tell you that right
Number
now.
one. Number two, as I told the story months and months ago, she was about to be kicked out on the street and evicted and everything, and then her agent called and said, "You'll never believe what happened. Your song's number one." Like, how? I thought
absolutely not what
I thought it
happened.
flamed out, and she said her agent was like,
He
"No."
is just lying about all of
Do you
this.
know who the
That's
Wayans
not
brothers
true.
are?
Couldn't have been less than
And
true.
she was like,
They're
"What?"
doing this again.
The song was
Leave me in the
gigantic.
Barry Garden?
Literally years before.
Who do you think gets asked about the other person more, Vanessa Carlton or Terry Crews? Because I
Vanessa-
think like it's synonymous. Like you can't picture that song without thinking of like Terry Crews hamming it up.
Vanessa Carlton looks like everyone.
Yeah. What did she?
No. But I'm saying when
Beautiful
people
woman,
approach Vanessa Carlton,
I don't
Yeah.
think people do.
Yeah, because they don't know. They just say, "Hey, can I have more beans on my Chipotle?"
Don't.
I'm just trying to make my way downtown.
She's a multi-millionaire.
She made $10 million.
Yes, thank you, Wayans.
It worked out for Terry Crews too.
All right. Witty is there.
You know what's amazing in the modern age of the internet? We have never seen a photo with Vanessa Carlton and Terry Crews together.
That's such a good point.
They've had to have bumped in. Well, I don't know what Vanessa Carlton's up to, but like, how have they not
Mike,
crossed paths?
Mike, maybe they did. You just don't know what the she looks like.
I know what Vanessa Carlton looks like. I was in high school during TRL.
She was not on TRL.
I didn't-
was she?
Yes, 1,000 Miles was 1,000% featured on TRL.
Was TRL still on the air by then?
That music video.
She could have
was
walked in
huge.
here and I wouldn't
It
have
was
known.
huge. She was on a
Huge.
flatbed truck playing the piano. Like,
Mike,
how do you do these
but
There's
I
things?
think-
parodies of that in all sorts of TV
but you
shows.
guys, like, I think you guys are music heads. I think most people know the song and probably couldn't tell you what she looks like. They know her name.
come in here and
I
slap
feel
me
like
in the
that's the more
face.
con-
I'll
like
be like,
knowing
why-
exactly what she looks like is I think a little more
She's like
music
the
niche.
if Michelle Branch is the late stage Pokemon, Vanessa Carlton's like the mid stage.
But if you
Pokemon.
put
Let's
them
ask
side by
Witty.
side, I won't know who's who.
Let's ask Witty if he knows.
Yeah.
When I close my
Witty,
eyes.
hey, welcome aboard, Chris Whittingham from Paramount and soccer
and the New York Rangers fan club.
and the New York.
Oh, I got so many things on you today,
okay,
brother.
yeah, we'll give people their pound of flesh when it comes to the hockey in a moment. But I have to ask you a more pressing question. Actually, two pressing questions just on the heels of the last segment. Have you ever raw dogged a flight?
Raw dog in what sense?
My man.
In
Both
that,
of them.
in that
Both
sense.
senses.
A raw dogging a flight, quite briefly here, is that no booze, no gummies, no headphones, no music. You're just
Ooh.
looking straight ahead,
No
looking
reading.
at the flight map.
No book.
Yeah, you're just locked in your entire flight. You're just looking straight forward, raw dogging it.
No sleeping also, because
I don't think I've ever done that. No.
Say
And
raw
just,
dog.
just
never raw dogged.
just staring ahead. No, I've never done that before. Maybe every once in a while, like the last 45 minutes of a flight, I'll stare at the map, but never for the whole thing. Never for the whole thing.
It's because it's becoming like a social media thing. Right?
Yeah, I saw that. It was like a GQ article or something where like someone
You
was
saw
writing
what?
up how this is a thing.
What was the name of the
Why are
article?
you trying to get this soundbite of me saying that?
Just
I don't
Google-
understand.
Just do me a favor
Saying
right
what?
now. Google Rawdogging.
and narrate as you type.
I'm
the
shocked
words.
Whitty doesn't call it Gentleman's Quarterly.
And the second quick question that we have is, do you know what Vanessa Carlton looks like?
No,
Yeah.
no. I've no idea what she looks like.
It looks like
and
Vanessa-
and while you were discussing that, I looked up 1,000 Miles came out in 2002, which was kind of like my peak TRL watching period, and I have no recollection of even heard that music video.
So like, when you think
Or-
of that, you only think of Terry Crews, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So it turns out Vanessa Carlton and Eve visited TRL All Access Week at the MTV Beach House in Seaside Heights, New Jersey on the same day,
Ew.
July 16, 2002.
That was a good MTV Beach House.
I feel like TRL didn't TRL have like a beach house in San Diego? That's the one that I seem to remember the most.
I remember when they went to Mexico as well.
Yeah,
That was a good
that
one,
was
too.
fun.
Yeah.
I think that
Two
was when
Americas.
Fred Durst blew up a sailboat.
Was that the year
with
they
the
did
dynamite?
Spring or
Like he did
Break?
like the Wile E. Coyote thing.
Dude, man, they used to have such budgets.
Yeah, there was also like a Bush performance where I don't know how they weren't electrocuted, which was a lot like the Panthers parade. We'll
George?
get back to that in a second.
We got-
Remember
we got
cable
1,000
TV?
miles. We got 1,000-mile hood version. That's the one I know. It's like making my way downtown with your boo, and that stick is on me. Salute.
Yeah, well, everything's going to be cable TV again, it seems. But let's talk about some soccer real quick. And we got a real cool promotion that our partners over at DraftKings have provided. Not just one, but two massive soccer tournaments going on right now. Level of play, we'll get into that in a second. But our partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook have an offer for all customers. That's right. Every single customer. When you place a pre-match three-way moneyline bet on a team to win only, if that bet ends in a draw, you get that original bet back as a bonus. If you've been following at Le Batard Show, I've been posting some picks up there. We're doing pretty well. The only time that we actually lost a bet was when Greg Berhalter decided to lose to Panama. But even then, we got the goal scorer right. So basically, yesterday I was on France. I was sitting pretty that entire game because I knew, you know what? If this ends in a draw, I get my bet back as a bonus bet. But we won. So the soccer hasn't been super great, but you have this draw breaker deal over there in your back pocket. Make it a little bit more exciting. Euro 2024 or Copa America only. Pre-match money line bets to win only. Max reward varies. Opt-in required only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Hell yeah.
Witty, let us talk about the main topic of conversation here in this country when it comes to soccer, and that is the U.S. failing to get out of their group in Copa America. Who could have seen this coming except for everybody, Chris?
I mean, I don't think that people would have seen the U.S. losing at home to Panama coming. I think that.
Did you not
look
see a
at-
couple of months ago when they did it? Like this is like they're doing this.
I
They're
mean-
making this a thing.
Okay, the last time that they did it was in the Gold Cup when they were playing like a C squad. If you look at the starting lineup that day, it wasn't the U.S. men's national team. It was their kind of third or fourth best team. But either way, look, that the red card happens, and when you're not good enough, which the U.S. have not been, certainly from an attacking point of view under Greg Berhalter, you are left to the vagaries of international football. And that's exactly what's happened here. And I think this was the tournament where I would say until now, everything of the Berhalter era was passing. It was, a C plus, B minus student. They did enough to qualify for the World Cup. They did enough to get out of the group in the World Cup. They seemed to bring through a generation of young players that were forming a decent amount of cohesion. Things were at the standard that they should have been before. But this, I think, was the cycle for them to take that next step up, and they've had numerous opportunities. They played Germany last October. They got smoked. They played Colombia this summer. They got smoked. They played Brazil and got a draw. And ultimately, this tournament wasn't even about getting out of the group. It was about beating one of the big teams. Uruguay, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina. Beating one of them. Elevating yourself beyond just hitting the standard and giving the nation a fair amount of hope for the World Cup in 2026 that's being hosted in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. And instead, the opposite has happened. I think a lot of people are as down on the program as they've ever been. And even if a new manager does come in, they're not going to have the time nor the quality of games to really lift the spirit of the nation. It's entirely going to have to come from their performance in that World Cup. And I don't think that enthusiasm will have built, which is obviously a huge missed opportunity.
You've always been more patient than me in almost every aspect of life. As long as we've been creating soccer content together, we have fundamentally disagreed on the Greg Berhalter experience and all that goes with it. Where are you now?
It's got to end. It's got to end. Like I said, when you went into the last World Cup cycle, there were pretty basic standards to hit, and Greg Berhalter hit them. And I even was okay with this notion that the players backed him. But if you believe that the players backed Greg Berhalter, and these are the results that have been delivered since, again, you go back since he actually took over last September, there are losses to, there should have been a loss to Jamaica in a competitive semifinal that would have sent them crashing out of the CONCACAF Nations League.
Yeah, he might have been fired after that one, considering
Seriously.
the stakes around that one. I remember that being a thing.
Yeah, there was an own goal that bounced off of a Jamaican defender, and that's how the U.S. got into a final against Mexico, and finals against Mexico are the only thing that have kept Greg Berhalter in this job to this point. And Mexico's bad now.
Yeah, Mexico's
not
bad, dude. They're bad.
They're a bad soccer team. They're worse than the United States. So when you look at that standard, he hit that standard, but now it's time to go and hit your home run higher. And the new sporting director, Matt Crocker, did do so with Emma Hayes. He went out. They got rid of Vlatko Andonovski. Everyone said it was the U.S. women's national team's manager's fault at the last World Cup. And over the last cycle, they got rid of him. They brought in the best possible hire, in my opinion, in Emma Hayes. When you look at her pedigree working in Europe in the WSL, her pedigree having some American experience, she is going, and already has done, namely by leaving Alex Morgan off of this Olympic squad, made sweeping changes to the national team. It's time for the men's counterpart to do the same. It's time for somebody to come in who has the gravitas, who has a big voice, and can get that enthusiasm going in the nation. The one thing that is a problem is how attractive is this job? How attractive is international management? We're looking at we're looking
it's
at these
attractive.
Euros.
Host nation of a men's
Sure.
World Cup in 2026, and not just any nation. This one, like in that moment in time, I think it's super attractive. And look, it's a pretty cushy job. You got plenty of job security if Greg Berhalter has anything to say about it.
Yeah, and you also go back to, I think with Berhalter, the other thing that happened too was everything that happened with Gio Reyna at the last World Cup. There was that easy breaking point. And I don't know why U.S. soccer, particularly given the negativity from the fan base, like at a certain point you have to take into account that there is not a lot of enthusiasm around your program. And people say, oh, money this and money that. The U.S. performing like this is not good for anyone.
No,
it's not good for it's not good for people that cover the soccer space. It's not good for the sponsor of Copa America. It's not good for the broadcasters of Copa America. Believe me, nobody bought the rights to Copa America hoping that the U.S. and Mexico crashed out in the group stage. This is an unmitigated disaster for a lot of people. This is not good for anyone.
And Jesse Marsh has made it to the knockout stages with Canada in a tougher group. And him being American, him actually having more of a resume, because Greg Berhalter's resume does not stack up with the job, and to get repeated chances. And you make a great point with the Emma Hayes hire, but this is also a federation that decided, after the mess that was the fallout from Qatar and how ugly that publicly got with the Reynas, to bring him back. So I'm a little hesitant to say that they're just going to replicate the formula with Emma Hayes. You at least had a program that had a sustained level of success, a multiple-time world champion. That culture does not exist on the men's side. Greg Berhalter was actually a culture hire, because they're still struggling to formulate a culture over there. And I don't think it's a good thing that the players had his back. I think it actually worked against him. I think you can blame Tim Weah's emotions in that moment on Greg Berhalter because of this atmosphere that he's cultivated. Carly Lloyd spoke to it yesterday on Fox. Like, we won championships without liking our manager in charge. Sometimes being afraid of the manager is a good thing. What would you like to see in a hire out of the U.S. Soccer Federation if this is indeed the end of Greg Berhalter's time here?
Something that represents a wow factor. I know that sounds very vague, but you're also talking about, again, I do think that internationally, I know your boy Jose Mourinho is someone that you've wanted for the program for a long time, but he was offered the chance to manage his home country, leave Roma and manage his home national team in Portugal, and he said no. If you look at the quality of people that are in charge of the national teams at these tournaments, Brazil couldn't get a top-level manager to come in from abroad. They went for Carlo Ancelotti. They couldn't. They promoted from within, and the manager has largely been unimpressive. Argentina's manager is their promoted under-23s coach. Spain's manager is their promoted under-23s coach. England's manager is their promoted under-23s coach. Generally, the pedigree of national team managers isn't great because it's not as attractive as managing the club game. It's very hard. You have very limited windows. You're not really coaching most of the time. You're kind of managing players. You get players for 3 training sessions and send them out there for major tournaments. It's hard, but I do want that sense of, wow, the U.S. have taken a big swing here, and it represents someone with a pedigree, maybe in Europe, maybe it's a great MLS coach, I don't know, but someone where you go, their background suggests that they are ready to take the U.S. to the next level. Because like I said, this Copa America was about taking the U.S. to the next level. It's the last chance that you get before the home World Cup to suggest to the nation that you're ready to compete at the highest level, and they did the opposite.
Yeah, I would like the wow factor too, especially since you're hosts. And while Mourinho's turned down jobs, Ancelotti looks certain to be going to Brazil, and then that changes. You do have a manager with pedigree in Jurgen Klopp that is kind of waiting for his next move here. I think that would be a home run. But I would also
it's sort of like make them say no.
Godfather offers,
right? Like,
but I wouldn't mind, Chris. I wouldn't mind like an international soccer lifer that just gets results and comes in, has a program, realizes I'm in there to flip this house. Essentially, I'm here for like a 3-year window, like a Hervé Renard archetype, like a type that has gone like a Scolari archetype that has gone into programs, flipped them, gotten results, and moves on. Like that's kind of what I want to see here if we're actually talking realistic expectations. But if there's ever a moment in time, Chris, to give up a Godfather offer and make them repeatedly tell you no until you finally break them, it's 2026.
Why is there no sense of urgency to any of this?
I don't understand. And part of Chris, they don't have qualifiers to round into form. That's what was so frustrating about bringing Greg Berhalter back. You've lost valuable time here. This wasn't about just, let's make a nice little showing. This is about beating the teams, as you said. This is about making a deep run because you're not going to have a lot of high-intensity matches in your preparation for 2026. They screwed the pooch from day one bringing him back.
Totally. And again, there was an easy excuse to not bring him back. And to your point, I think the international calendar really gets in the way of the United States playing difficult games because next summer there's a Club World Cup, so there's a chance that a lot of the big players won't be released for international games. And realistically, over the next 2 years, all the countries from South America and Europe are going to be playing either World Cup qualifiers or Nations League, and really limits the U.S.'s opportunities to schedule games against big opponents. It's going to be a lot of playing against the other CONCACAF teams, playing against teams from Asia or Oceania or countries that are not going to really elevate your standard. I mean, you ask a really good question. Where is that sense of urgency? I think that's a really good point because this national setup, the U.S. Soccer Federation appears to have been happy with Greg Berhalter for the entire 5 years and kind of living in their own bubble where they think this is going great. We believe in this guy. Whatever he's doing behind the scenes is getting everyone going. And they seem to be the only ones this entire time that have thought, wow, what a great job he's doing. And at some point, you kind of got to step out of the bubble and go, we're nowhere near it. We're nowhere near it. And you can talk about the players not being as good as everyone talks, as everyone says they are, but we don't even see the versions of the players that Christian Pulisic is for Milan for the U.S. men's national team, that Tim Weah is for Juventus for the U.S., Weston McKennie is for Juventus in the U.S. Like, we don't see that version of those players, and ultimately, when those players aren't hitting their ceiling or scoring goals, because the kind of low-key thing is that they've been good defensively over these last 2 major tournaments. At the World Cup, they scored 2 goals, and they conceded 2 goals in the group stage. In this Copa America, they scored 3 goals and conceded 2 goals. So they've actually, they conceded 3 goals. Yeah. So they've actually been fine defensively. It's this attacking group where theoretically that's where your best players are that don't deliver. The strikers have never delivered under Greg Berhalter. And so I think they do have to step out of that bubble and realize the next 2 years, even though you don't have the games to really prep, is the time to make an impression and get the fan base excited because they have not done, and there is no urgency. You're 100% right.
I think they're trying to do too much in the final third, honestly. Dig your heels in and go. You have some speed advantages along the pitch, which goes to just the general counterattacking style. And I think that, look, the back line was an atrocity several years ago. And I do think it's starting to come online, and there's reason to hope there. And there are some really good working parts here for a manager of repute to walk in, command a room, hold players accountable, get the best 11 out there, and let's pin our ears back and go. Let's dig in, counterattack, and try to scummy our way over to a win, which actually seems like what a lot of elite teams are doing on the international scale. France all of a sudden is playing the type of style that I want the U.S. to replicate by digging their heels in, being this counterattack.
They always have done.
Yeah, but
they always have done under Deschamps. Like, they've never been as exciting as they could be.
Despite all the immense talent over there. And that's what you have to do. I've always felt in the international game, because of the time that you have with these players, you don't have a lot of time to institute these really these really sophisticated attacking schemes. So we're seeing England struggle a little bit. Southgate, not a totally dissimilar situation, although much more success on the international level than Greg Berhalter. It felt like he was going to go Jude Bellingham and company save his ass. And France, a late winner. Belgium, maybe that's a bow on that generation, which was golden, without any real hardware to go alongside of it. So what do you make of this Euro? It's been pretty cagey. It got off to a pretty hot start. Everyone was saying how much better than the World Cup it was. And other games have really tailed off as the stakes have been ramped up.
Yeah, it feels like that first game of the group where there aren't really a lot of stakes just because a lot of third-place finishers are making it. Basically gave everyone, hey, let's go have some fun. And then when the stakes really dial up, everyone is really kind of dialed back in and is super defensive again. To me, the thing that is interesting is the point that you make, which is that the big teams are really not playing well. When you look at France and England as being your joint favorites, I think France is a little bit more by design. Like I said, they have generally been this way when they came very close to winning 2 World Cups. The French public, even when they were close to winning 2 World Cups, are like, we can play a little bit better than this. Why isn't this team more fun? You look at the talent that they have, it is absurd. Yeah. The England thing is way less by design. They're just bad.
Yeah.
And I would be shocked.
But they got so much talent, dude. They got so much talent, and
so much.
And I don't understand what Southgate is doing and not playing Cole Palmer all that much. But maybe it just compounds some of the issues with Phil Foden over there for whatever reason. Yeah. Foden and Bellingham like oil and water, and now Kane's kind of like struggling to fit in with those pieces. I don't really understand. It's not a talent issue. England's got one of the more talented sides in the world. But they could also benefit from a change in leadership, I think, regardless of the outcome. Even if they go on one of these miraculous runs where, hey, kind of like Argentina, we haven't really played well, but we find ourselves here. I think it's time for a change in leadership there, no matter the outcome. One team that has really impressed me, that has actually played well, and kind of gone a little bit against its identity in these international tournaments, even though they've had some big victories. They beat Spain in a World Cup that Spain eventually won. Switzerland, there's a lot of talent now in that attacking third, Chris, that hasn't been there in previous years. I've come away really impressed with them.
Totally. And I think they go into, in my opinion, if you look at the odds on DraftKings Sportsbook, it's actually kind of remarkable how big of underdogs, in my opinion, that they are. If you go off what you've seen in this tournament,
they were so
Switzerland
much better than
favored.
Italy. They were so much better than Italy.
So much better than Italy, and they have been so much better than England in this tournament. Mm-hmm. And yet I think if you look at it right now, the money line for Switzerland to win the game is like plus 275.
It's going to be my drawbreaker.
Right, exactly.
Like, I get a bonus bet. If I bet the money line, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you look at Switzerland and you look at England, and England obviously has more talent. But sometimes in international tournaments, you kind of have to trust your eyes and go, well, who's better? Mm-hmm. And I think Switzerland are just better. And also a reminder, they knocked France out of the last Euro and went out to Spain on penalties. So they do have some pedigree in this tournament. Switzerland are a good team. I'm actually really excited to watch one of the teams that's in action today. Austria, for me, have been one of the 3 or 4 best teams at this Euro as well. I would not be against doing one of those draw no bets. I'm
so glad you said that, Witty, because Austria is my draw breaker play of the day at Le Batard Show. That's a DraftKings Sportsbook promo that I'm running with. I really like Austria today. All right, so we've talked soccer. It's great to have you back on the show, pal.
Pound of flesh.
We want our pound of flesh. This is the first time this show has had an opportunity to speak to you after Matthew Tkachuk and the Florida Panthers win a scary cup final in 7 against the Edmonton Oilers. How did you experience that for the audience, Chris?
Fraud.
About as miserable. Honestly, this last week has been rotten because as much as I know you were rooting against the U.S. men's national team because you've been wanting Greg Berhalter out for a while. There's a Randy Shannon vibe to all this for you. But for me, I wanted the U.S. to kind of defy the odds and beat Uruguay and go into the knockout stages of Copa America and be excited. And last month, like honestly, I lived a Groundhog Day yesterday. I wanted a result in sports. It didn't happen. I was up until 2 a.m. reading Twitter. The only thing that was missing was you gleefully FaceTiming me from the Arrowhead Stadium parking lot, because that's about the only difference between last Monday and Monday night.
Would have been from a satellite orbiting Arrowhead as the main broadcast feed. So I've eased up. I've always FaceTimed you after big-time Matthew Tkachuk results and been like straight up, fuck you, Witty. And my wife and I have both reveled in that. My wife genuinely looks at you differently. And it's a real shame because we loved you. Uncle Witty was a thing in our household. Not so
anymore.
much. You ran away. You left us. And on top of that, you started taking pot shots at the thing that we love the most. You were a Rangers guy.
Play this
we
fraud
stuffed you in a locker.
Dancing, yeah. Look at this.
Stuffed you in a locker.
Dork.
And now they have the cup. Witty, I was sincere. Chris can tell you, we've said in a microphone several times over, we've given you every opportunity to come back. And yesterday, I finally came across the realization, this is the most stubborn, pig-headed, American male point of view.
Toxic masculinity.
It's toxic that Chris Whittingham has ever had. And I'm low-key proud of him. I'm proud of you for finally saying, yeah, I know what the result is. I will deny those results. I am going to stick to my guns here. I know it's a bad look for me.
Someone.
I don't care. I stop the count. I will not acknowledge these results. I'm low-key proud of you.
You have to acknowledge the results. Although you did say Matthew Tkachuk and the Florida Panthers, despite Matthew Tkachuk's very limited contributions in the Stanley Cup final and Eastern Conference final.
Yeah, it was a weird team. Like nobody, like that's how Connor McDavid finds himself winning Conn Smythe rather easily. Is that there wasn't a singular guy. This was a real ultimate team performance. I would have loved Matthew Tkachuk to have that crowning moment because at that point, what can you say? I guess if you're holding on to any thread, it's like, well, he didn't actually do it in the cup. He only had like one cup good game, but forevermore, it is the worst time to tuck and run.
Hold on, he shit on Paul Maurice too.
I mean, a lot of people did. Hey, you know what? Keith Tkachuk did. Like, Keith Tkachuk went on the radio and lit Paul Maurice up. It's one of those forgotten things that happened as in that year of panic. Well, and by the way, Chris Whittingham was still on board during the Matthew Tkachuk era, the early stages of Paul Maurice. There was just something that happened in that first initial run that made him say, you know what, I can't fake this anymore. I am no longer.
Well,
it was
more that like I was desperately hoping for it to fail. And it was going a large way towards failing until Alex Lyon pulled a week of form out of his ass to qualify for the playoffs. And then they somehow come back from 3-1 down in the first round against Boston. If either of those things don't happen, I don't even like, maybe they in the offseason fix a lot of things and in that second season would have been fine. But yeah, I mean, the first year happens. And look, I mean, I acknowledge you guys are Stanley Cup champions. What I just feel is nothing. I'm vacant, empty nothingness.
That sucks because you were always like such a hard,
as upset about
you were
that.
Such a hardcore Panthers guy. This was something that really brought us together, and for you to just dip on us as in literally the worst time in recorded history. They go on an unbelievable run. They're Stanley Cup champions for the first time in their 30-year history. All we wanted to do was enjoy this with you, and the hill that you died on cost $110 from Fanatics because you love Jonathan Huberdeau so much. I don't get it. Congratulations on getting Ryan Lomberg, though, to play alongside your guy Hubie. That's a nice little
I mean, it's time they finally built around Jonathan Huberdeau. You know, there's that enormous skill set there. They can go into this offseason and start to build around the one true great player in the National Hockey League. Yeah, look, man, it was as desperate as hopeless as I've ever felt on Monday. I felt very alone. I was in my sad Connecticut apartment wondering what the hell, why did I do this to myself?
To be fair, though, that Connecticut apartment is sad regardless of what happens in the Stanley Cup.
Good point. But I did the whole cycle of thought that I've done probably 8 times since I started, and I come back to the same conclusion every time. I'd do it again. I do it again.
Oh,
As
come
stupid as it is,
Hell, boy,
as
you
ridiculous
lying.
as it is, I would
Lie.
not change a single bit of thought
Stop
process.
gaslighting
Not
us,
one.
Witty.
Hey,
I'm not
Ridiculous.
gaslighting.
Yes, you
This
are.
is genuine.
You're
I
gaslighting
would
us
do it
all.
all over again.
Mike, stuff him in a locker, Mike.
Come on.
This has to be. We can't find another Panthers fan with this like same trail that he's taken. Like,
No.
Has anyone followed him here?
No,
You're the only
no.
Literally,
Panthers fan.
Mackenzie Weegar and Jonathan Huberdeau are the only ones, and even Weegar congratulated the Panthers.
And literally, our friend Stefano Fusaro has made every one of my colleagues at CBS aware of the fact that he's a big Panthers fan. And so people come to me and are like, "Hey, aren't you excited about the Panthers?" I'm like, "No, I'm not."
thing.
And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "It's really a dumb, boring story. I've had
No,
to
it's
tell the
not.
dumb, boring
Tell the story.
The dumb, boring story of why I'm not a Panthers fan a billion times.
Yes.
I'm tired of telling it
Yeah,
myself.
look at you like
It
you're
is-
crazy. Do they look?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
always.
100%.
Shout out to Stefano
100%.
Fusaro for planting that seed for people to torture you every goddamn day.
Yeah, Whitty, my bold prediction is that in 2026, you're going to be calling one of the more important World Cup games over here. Really happy for all your success. Sad that it took a move to Connecticut. Sad that we couldn't enjoy the Stanley Cup with you. But I'm really happy that you didn't decide to be stubborn when it came to Greg Berhalter and you finally saw the light that he's got to go. Thank you for joining
Yes.
us. And I'm going to be taking Austria.
And I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
It's going to be my last day of work for the rest of the week. I'm off to Chicago. Going to take in a Cubs game. Bouchambi hooked it up there. Going to be going to a NASCAR race in Chicago. My very first NASCAR race ever. Really excited about that.
You've never been to a NASCAR race?
Never ever been.
Are you going to be in the bleachers or are you going to be in the pit in the infield or whatever?
I don't know. Maybe what I'll do is I'll open up the Game Time app. I'll check out panoramic views from my seat.
Yeah.
And I'll figure out where exactly I want to sit because I know I'm guaranteed the lowest price on the secondary market. And if I find a better price out there, Game Time will match it up to 110%.
What?
If you're new to the Game Time world, do me a favor. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DAN for $20 off your first purchase. That is $20 off your first purchase with the promo code DAN. I am their most loyal customer. I am on this app all the time. I'm really excited about NASCAR because right now, we have a full-fledged rivalry at the very top of the sport.
I got to tell you, I've been in one NASCAR race in my life. It was fun as hell.
Yeah?
I can't tell you what happened, who won, but I know it was a great party. We were in.
So this one's kind of unique because it's a street race. The race on a street race, you never really know with those.
like
it's
kind
in
of.
Grant Park, which
Oh,
is
wow.
special to me because I went to like 10 consecutive Lollapaloozas there. But it's a street course. But what NASCAR is trying to do with this race is they're making it a weekend thing. It's like a music festival. Like Black Keys are playing a 90-minute headlining set out there. Keith Urban's playing, Chainsmokers. So it's going to be I'm bringing my daughter. It's going to be a nice little family-friendly thing.
Nice.
But I'm really excited to see what's happening between the 11 and the 5. Two biggest stars in the motorsport, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson, have been quietly feuding, and they're friends off the track. But week by week, this is getting a little bit more intense, and they're trading paint. And finally, Kyle Larson, who listened to his very sassy spotter say he does that because you let him.
Oh!
Yeah, and Kyle Larson told him to shut the F up in response.
Yeah.
Well, he took the spotter's advice, and Denny Hamlin tried to move on him, and Kyle Larson got really aggressive. Kyle Larson got really aggressive at the end of that race and bumped the one car out of the way and almost messed with Denny Hamlin. In fact, there were so many restarts in overtime that there was one moment. Overtime is 3 laps to end the race because no one's going home under caution.
Nobody.
And we had 11 and 5 next to one another, and they were going to race, and it was going to be amazing to the end, and then Kyle Larson runs out of gas. But the big part about all this setup, is to say Denny Hamlin, for the first time, has finally acknowledged that, yes, it is indeed a rivalry. He used that word. He didn't want to use it last week when they asked him about it, but because of Kyle Larson's actions on the track, he is now calling it a rivalry. Do we have that video from Denny Hamlin? Let's get excited, folks.
I'm in this for the long haul. I'm fine with the way we're racing, and it's going to keep going, and it's going to keep getting raised.
So is it a rivalry?
Sure, if you want to call it.
Oh, hey, it's
whatever
finally,
you
we're
want.
finally calling it one.
Finally
Last
calling
week
it
you
what it
wouldn't
is.
do it.
No, that's what he did.
wouldn't.
I just said, fine, whatever you. I don't care what you want to call it.
He acknowledged it. It's a rivalry now. It's a thing.
Dude,
5 and 11.
I
Two biggest
won't-
stars in the sport.
I'm going to call you out on this. The way you set it up, I thought he was like, hell yeah, it's a rivalry. I'm about to bust him right in his jaw.
Look, he refused to call it a rivalry. He would always push back on that. These are the top of the mountain superstars in this sport. And so, like, for them to publicly acknowledge, this is going to be a thing. We're going to go at each other every week on the racetrack. He even said, like, my teammate 45 better be there to pick up the pieces because if we're going to crash each other out of this race, like, let's do it. I'm here. And we'll find out the sustainability on that.
But all he did was at the end go, that was the dismount of the video.
A great soundbite.
Right. You saw that? Kyle Larson's a different dude now.
Yeah.
After his spotter lit him up like that. All right, I want to talk to you about a documentary that I finally got around to seeing. We mentioned that Celine Dion announced the Montreal Canadiens pick, and that was a really big, well-guarded secret by the NHL. It got an immense pop. It really spurred me to watch this documentary that's out. We've mentioned it on the show before. Celine Dion is not actively performing anymore because she's been diagnosed with stiff person syndrome. That is the actual name. And what it does is it's exactly what it sounds like. There are moments in time where your muscles go against your body and you tense up, and it's a really horrible thing. I watched this documentary, and it was heartbreaking to watch Celine Dion because when I say Celine Dion, at the height of her powers, what did she give off,
Like big voice.
She gave off big voice, but immense confidence, like diva.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
she was good, and she knew it. Her identity was so tied up in not just being a good singer, but being the best singer.
Right, like one of the great voices.
That she is.
Her, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey. Like that's the
heartbreaking part about this documentary is seeing how tied up her identity was in being not just a good singer, but being the best singer. And she's constantly surrounding herself with all these triggers, all these reminders. She's always watching older videos of herself performing because nobody could get after it on the mic like Celine Dion could. She looks totally different in this documentary. She actually has an episode which is really scary to watch unfold. But I think the saddest moments, a moment that made me a little watery. I guess I'm like all people that have children. I become a little bit more emotional. There is a moment in which she's in a recording studio and she's trying her best. She cannot hit those notes. There's one time that she sings and it sounds pretty good, at least to me. She cries because she sounds like me singing. I'm like, I actually thought that sounded pretty good, but she knows where it was.
Yeah.
So she's in the recording studio.
It's like me watching Brazil.
She's in the recording studio and she's having her track played back to her. And you could see it in her face just how devastated she is. And at one point she says, imposter, at listening to her own voice.
That's devastating.
There isn't a happy ending to this.
No.
Like the happy ending that I got, I didn't know it, was her announcing the draft pick at the NHL draft. It is just like she is got this identity crisis. She can no longer do what she once did. She is heartbroken by it. And there's no real happy ending here.
Can I say that when it comes to documentaries, I know people went crazy off of The Last Dance. The best documentaries are the one where there's a fall at the end, right? So I haven't seen the Celine Dion one. I have seen the Michael J. Fox one. I have seen the Gene Wilder one. And obviously all three of them are afflicted by an awful, awful illness that robs them of their greatness.
This is sad from the jump. Like, there is no come down. Like, you do, like, flashbacks to her and her hype, but you're, like, in the middle of it.
Oh, for real?
Out the gates. It's a pretty tough watch.
The Michael J. Fox one is really fascinating because I did not realize, like, his path and how he broke in the industry. And then how early the first signs of Parkinson's afflicted him and how they hid it so well for the longest, right?
Celine gets into some of that, like where some of the earliest signs of her having this stuff, like when her voice started to betray her and how she tried to manage that stuff. And I found that stuff very interesting. I think they didn't delve into like her climb. There's been a lot of stuff out there. And if you want to dig into the internet to see who she married and how that came to be and the circumstances around that, I can understand why she didn't want to get into any of that stuff. Right. This is all grief eating from the very beginning. It's a really difficult watch. And I'm not really sure it has a redeeming quality other than like
exposition,
empathy. Like I am just so sad for what she's going through. She has a support system. She had an amazing career, but there's no happy ending here, dude. Kind of like the Miami Heat.
Well, what's so sad about something like what Celine Dion is going through from the talent perspective is in so many other things like athleticism or things where your identity is wrapped up in it, you expect that to fade at some point. One of the only things in which you can reach stardom and fame from that normally lasts through your whole life. The Rolling Stones are still playing concerts. The Grateful Dead are still playing concerts. You expect music and singing to be something that can stick with you forever as a part of who you are. You develop it as a child, and now Celine Dion, one of the great voices we've ever had, has to deal with not experiencing that. It's devastating.
She's watching YouTube videos of her best performances and other people performing, and you could just tell how much she loved being in front. It was her entire identity was commanding a stage, blowing people away from her with her voice, and that's not available to her anymore. And it's a really tough watch. I don't even think I can actually recommend it anymore. Mention I'm going away for the 4th. The 4th is one of my favorite holidays. It screams summer, family time, patriotism. You can feel some kind of way about patriotism these days. Yesterday was
Don't have to worry about a Team USA game on TV. Like
it was tough, and it wasn't Greg Berhalter that kind of soured me on the idea of being patriotic yesterday. But I'm going to rally. I'm going to Chicago. I'm surrounding myself with NASCAR. That's as American a 4th of July weekend as one can possibly have. But usually when I stay down here, I do the fireworks and all that. I have a Miller Lite in my hand. I'm making a Miller time, and I put on my 4th of July playlist to just supplement the entire thing. It's something that I've crafted over several years, and I'm very proud of. I have a 4th of July playlist.
Send me that bad boy.
I'll send you that bad boy. I sent it to Tony. Tony, you're a big 4th of July guy?
Huge 4th of July guy, my favorite holiday. And I'm looking through some of your picks here. It is a 51-song playlist.
Favorite holiday? You just say that blanket statement.
Yeah, it's my favorite holiday.
favorite holiday?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Have you seen the image on my playlist?
I just did it.
Do you know what the image is? It's of John Cena announcing to an arena that we have
killed Osama bin
killed
Laden.
Osama bin Laden. Compromised to a permanent end, I believe, is what he said.
Look at that. No, the songs in there are great. We've got a lot of things titled American, which are great.
We've got Firework by Katy Perry. That's people
Classic.
sleep on that. That is a perfect 4th of July song.
We've got the Star Spangled Banner a couple times in different renditions.
Whose renditions? Whose renditions?
Jimmy's
Jimi
obviously.
Hendrix.
Jimmy's number one.
Okay, what else?
You've got like a more conventional big band that plays a United States president on stage. I always like the idea of fireworks going off, and you have bam, 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 bam.
What about Whitney? Do you have the Whitney Houston national anthem?
I don't think the Whitney version is available.
Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of like there's
the Marvin Gaye.
There's a lot of like sneaky tracks too that you wouldn't necessarily that don't have America in the name, like Aretha has Think, and you're like, why does Aretha Think show up in the 4th of July playlist? Well, glad you asked. Glad you asked. She screams freedom for about half the song.
Hell yeah!
And it's a goosebump moment.
Philadelphia Freedom, another great one by Elton John.
We also have, I believe, Rick Derringer's Hulk Hogan theme. A Real American. That's a must in there.
It's like American, and you just got paid.
That's not.
And
She's
who
Canadian.
would have thought?
You got the theme from The Greatest American Hero. You have,
you have
a country song that features Pitbull that's called USA.
Do you have My President is Black?
I should add that, actually. Yeah, I should add that. A couple
That
songs
Ass Up also belongs in there, Juvenile.
Yeah, Freedom from George Michael. You think Back That Ass Up belongs in there?
That's Americana's at its best.
Do you have Team America World Police?
America!
Fuck yeah!
So this one is more family friendly because I'm usually.
What about
playing
Party
it
in the
around
USA?
kids.
Miley Cyrus.
That's
actually
that's
the
the first song.
Thank
It's
goodness.
actually the first song, yeah.
Yeah, first song in there.
Do you have to play it in this order? Or
No,
you
I
just
shuffle
random?
it. No, it's made for shuffle.
Shuffle. Okay.
Made for shuffle. Hail to the Chief is on there.
No.
Is this like an outdoor, like this is like a beach thing,
Yeah,
or like
this
a
is-
barbecue thing?
It's
like
a whatever
how are we
Plug and
doing?
play.
It's a
Boat
4th of
thing?
July thing,
If
baby.
it's the 4th, you get it.
Okay.
You know what? You need an after hours one so you could play.
Yeah.
Freedom isn't free. It costs a hefty fucking fee.
Yeah.
And if you don't put in your $1.05, who will? $1.05.
What are
George
the
Michael, Freedom 99.
What do you need like to qualify for this? So like chicken fried in the middle, we just give a shout out to
American
the
song.
troops.
I think
No,
that
that's a
works.
good American song.
I think
Does
that works
that
because
qualify?
yes, it
Anything
should.
with
I'm
the
going to add
troops is
chicken
in.
fried. Anything with
Put that
troops.
in. Put that
If you're
chicken
putting a
fried.
boot in anyone's ass,
Oh yeah,
That's the
classic.
American way.
The Big Dog,
Yeah.
rest in peace, by the
Dude,
way,
Toby.
would put a boot in anybody's ass
yeah.
here.
But Pink Houses by John Mellencamp. There's a lot of singing. Like for example, Chicago in the park. I'm actually literally doing this. Saturday in the park, I think it was the 4th of July by Chicago. That's a super American 4th of July song. So you tap into fireworks, you tap into America, you tap into summer, because that's what's so great about 4th of July. It is like in the middle of the summer. It feels, you're grilling outside. That feels like America.
Fireworks.
What's the other one with a proud to be an
Proud to be an
American,
American.
where at least I know I'm free.
And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I proudly stand up next to you and defend her still today.
Berhalter.
Ain't
no doubt I love
this land. God bless the USA.
And essentially make the president a king with impunity, and he can do anything he wants now, basically. And maybe Joe Biden won't take advantage of it, but the other guy certainly will.